How you doing? I hope the sun is shining wherever you are. If not on the outside, then absolutely on the inside. Hey, here it is, your favorite person's favorite person for the NAMCA podcast, Sam Pearson II, here with another amazing guest who's a rock star that we're going to ask some really difficult questions. We'll see if Evan is ready for it. But wherever you are, make sure you clap your hands and stomp your feet for Evan Fossen. Give a round of applause for Evan. How you doing?
Welcome. Hi, doing good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for being here, obviously. Now, I let you know kind of in the backstage green room, we're going to hop right into something that's really important, which is you. So I want you, I'm going to lead this so folks understand where we're coming from. I want you to just brag about yourself, tell everyone how amazing you are, why you're amazing. Just go off as long as you need to make you feel good about this thing, and go.
All right. Well, thanks. So again, my name is Evan. I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Student Life at Fairmont State University in West Virginia. And I've been in higher ed for about 6 years now. And I just love making an impact on students' lives. One of my big personal missions and goals is to ensure that students have an engaging and impactful co-curricular experience. And so we know that a lot of time in college is spent outside of the classroom. And there's a lot of opportunity for growth and development and education throughout their full college experience beyond just attending class. So I am the man in charge of making sure that that takes place and that happens, and that they have a good time in college, but they also have those opportunities for growth. So I always love, like I said, making an impact on students' lives. I currently oversee a lot of different areas. I'm at a smaller institution, so I oversee student organizations, Greek life, and campus events and programs. So there's a lot going on there. But we make sure that we've got enriching and engaging, vibrant campus life, that students are getting connected. They feel a sense of community, a sense of belonging, so that they are more likely to have a network that is able to support them through their college career and lead to their future success. Something that I'm really proud of this year is all the work that I have done leading what our campus calls the Umbrella Coalition. And this is our campus's diversity, equity, and inclusion programming board, essentially. And this started just a couple years ago. So like I said, I'm at a smaller institution and we don't have a diversity office or a diversity chairperson. But that type of programming, those initiatives are very meaningful for me, and they're a personal passion of mine. And so with the help of campus leadership, we were able to form a cross-campus coalition, bringing in people from Title IX, from our campus rec, from counseling, as well as me in student life and student activities. And we've been able to bring forth a lot of new diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that our campus didn't have previously. And so I'm really proud of the work we've done. We've partnered with different faculty, different student organizations, different affinity groups on campus to do cultural awareness programming, to have some really meaningful discussions on campus about how to create that welcoming environment that I mentioned earlier, to where all students feel supported and that their personal identities are validated, and that they are keeping in mind other people's identities and trying to view things through different lenses and different perspectives, so that we can all come together and build a more inclusive environment and a more welcoming family. And so I've been really proud of the work that we've done with that group. I was just in a leadership meeting with my division earlier today, and they were talking, our leader, our vice president of student success, asked us one of the highlights of the semester. And I was telling a story about how one of the programs that committee put on was actually bringing a drag show to campus for LGBTQ History Month.
Really, yeah.
And it was something that our campus hadn't seen in a long time, if ever. So it generated a lot of excitement on campus. It was one of our best attended programs. But then a couple weeks later, I was actually visiting a high school in the middle of nowhere across the state, hours away from campus. And one of those students there came up to me and said that they had done a campus visit and seen the flyer for that event and got really excited about it. So I got to tell them about all the other work that the committee is doing to make sure everyone feels like they have a place that they belong here on campus, and to see the impact not only on campus of those efforts, but to see that it's reaching beyond out into the community, out into the far reaches of the state, was really, really powerful for me to see that the work that I'm doing is impacting lives and it's making a difference.
Congratulations. Rocks, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. No, thank you for all that amazing work. Really quick, you mentioned, working with faculty members. How impactful has it been, to be able to partner and collaborate with faculty members? Because I know that's something that a lot of institutions haven't been able to do or haven't done yet. How impactful has it been to have them as a partner, let's say, in the co-curricular space?
Yeah. So working in higher ed, there's this kind of divide between the academic side and the student affairs side. But I am all about collaboration and working with people. So I try to bring in different campus partners or community partners for all of my programming efforts. It helps bring in new perspectives and ideas. It also helps broaden your outreach for an event to get better participation. So it's really mutually beneficial for both parties. And especially on our campus, and especially with these educational type programs, when we're talking about serious things like diversity, equity, and inclusion and different identities and how to create a welcoming environment, those kind of topics aren't necessarily sexy or fun or enticing. And so it's hard to get students to come into the fold and engage in those kind of conversations or those activities. And so partnering with faculty, especially in that area, has been extremely critical to help get involvement and participation. A lot of times faculty can tie it into their course syllabus. They can offer extra credit. I had a faculty member offer extra credit for his students to attend one of our allyship training courses, and they just had to write a brief reflection on what that experience was like, and he gave them extra credit. And he told me that he rarely offers extra credit for his classes, and he knew that this semester, especially, things are really crazy these days, especially with all of the effects of the ongoing pandemic and whatnot. And so it's been hard on students. And so they jumped at the opportunity for this little bit of extra credit, and it encouraged them to engage in this meaningful discussion that they might not have otherwise. And so not being afraid to reach out to the faculty and propose a partnership and a collaboration and show them that what you're doing is impactful and meaningful to the students' education, and getting them on board to try and encourage their students to attend has definitely been a major benefit to making sure that those initiatives are successful.
That's awesome. You mentioned kind of like doing the work on your end and like helping them understand like how impactful it can, and how it helps them. Sometimes their job becomes much easier when the students don't dread being around them more in their class or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Cool. So tell me this, how did higher ed find you? Jim, how did higher ed collect you? Did you find higher ed? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I knew from a young age that I was going to go to college. My grandpa was kind of has the American dream success story. He was the first in his college to go, or first in his family to go to college and pursue a higher education. And it just opened so many doors for him. And so he really instilled the value of education into his kids and his grandkids from a very early age. So I always knew it was something I was going to go into. And I've always kind of liked school and liked being around people and the learning environment. If you're familiar with the Clifton Strengths Finder, one of my top strengths, actually my top strength is learner. So I've always been kind of into that personally. And that has meant that I've been a very engaged and active learner, and I've gotten very involved throughout my educational experience. So when I was in college, I went to the University of Montana. I was involved in student government. I was in a fraternity. And then one of my fraternity brothers actually told me about a job on campus with the student activities office that I could help plan leadership events for students on campus. And so I got into that and quickly started helping out with all sorts of other campus events. And that's where I discovered that student affairs and higher education was a career field that was something that I could go into, that it was something that I was interested in. and I was hooked. I loved, like I said, providing those really awesome experiences on campus for students and being a part of their journey and their growth and development. And so that's how I kind of got into the realm of higher ed and student affairs, and I've loved it ever since.
That's awesome. Congratulations. It's always interesting to know how we kind of find our way or how you find your way into student affairs. Now, one thing I do want to ask, because you work so many different offices and you do wear so many hats, or as they say, other duties as assigned.
Yeah.
For working with folks from the outside, whether it be speakers or vendors, what's something that those people can do to make your life easier on the other end? Are there things, or what are some don'ts that make your life feel impossible along the way, if you don't mind them sharing?
Sure. So yeah, I oversee, like I said, campus programs as part of my duties, and we put on multiple events every week. And I constantly get emails from vendors and speakers who want to come to campus. And honestly, sometimes I don't have the time or the bandwidth to really dig into them, and I get them so often. So a lot of times I end up forwarding them on to my students to look into. And so I think that something that I've noticed has been helpful is when there is a very easy link to follow to find out more information and kind of explore on their own time. I also get a lot of phone calls from people interested in coming, and I'm got all sorts of meetings and stuff, so I'm not always available to take a phone call. So if there's something that we can easily figure out what you're doing, what you're about, what value you add, and what you can bring to the students, because I'm a very student-centered person and higher ed professional, and so it's all about what value it's going to provide to the students. And so if there's a link or some quick appealing info that me or my students can kind of look at whenever we get a free moment and have the opportunity to just go and take a look at that, and it's easy to see the impact or the value that you can have, I think that's definitely helpful. But also something, just kind of tips, a lot of the vendors that we work with throughout the semester, they're vendors that we've established a long-term relationship with. And I think that something that has helped establish those relationships is the personal outreach. So I was talking to a vendor the other day who always asked about my holiday plans and knew that I was going to visit my grandpa next week, and just kind of making that personal connection. It definitely makes me more apt to kind of look into what you offer and what you can bring, and seeing if I can make it work on our campus, or if it's something that our students would be interested in.
Awesome. So phone calls, negative ghostwriter on the phone calls. All right, folks, just you're paying attention. It's probably the least attractive way to reach out. So obviously now you're 6 years in the game, and there's some folks that likely already look up to you, or they're going to come across this, they're going to listen to it, or they're watching it. What's some advice you'd have for a new person that's getting in the space? It may be something that they're not going to learn, or no one's going to teach them. What's some advice you'd give to them, or heck, a younger you?
So if we're talking about someone who is interested in going into higher ed or student affairs,
yes,
I think that some of the best advice that I got and that I have then given to other people is, if you want to have a long-term successful career and you want to be able to move up in higher education and in student affairs, you're going to need further education and training. And so it's pretty critical to continue your education and go ahead and get that master's degree. But some of the best advice that I got from higher ed professionals at a conference when I first started out was to make sure you don't pay for your master's degree. And so I was able I searched for programs that specifically offered assistantships that provide a practical hands-on experience and also give you a living stipend as part of the curriculum. And so I ended up going to Penn State and getting paid to earn my master's degree. And I think that everyone that is going into higher ed, especially student affairs, there's so many graduate assistant level positions on a college campus that you can get some really good experience and you can get your your post-secondary education beyond your undergraduate degree paid for, and as at the same time as earning some practical experience that can only help you in those future job interviews and adding to your resume. So I think that that was definitely the best advice I got, and something that I passed on is make sure you are furthering your education and furthering your development. You're investing in yourself to grow, and that you find ways to make it work and don't go into debt for it.
Ooh, and that last part, don't go into their place you can go. I don't know if it still exists. I remember the Oshkosh Placement Exchange. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Listen, folks, Evan's out here dropping gems. I didn't even pay him to say that. And
There's
there's
actually a lot of placement exchanges. And when I was in grad school, some of us participated in TPE, NASPA Placement Exchange. There's also NACA for student activities focus. There's really different placement exchanges and graduate level internship opportunities for all sorts of areas of student affairs. And like I said, they all give you living stipends or are paid positions. They're a great experience to add to your resume and portfolio and further your professional development in that area. And so those are great opportunities to seek out, because there's a lot of them out there in higher education.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Last question, if you don't mind. So you've been a part of some associations, you're familiar with some. What's something you think that associations could do to better your experience? Or is there something you think that associations might be missing? And if they did this, it would make it more enjoyable to attend or be at or connect with?
Sure. So yeah, like you mentioned, I've been a part of a lot of different associations. I'm currently a member of NASPA, and I think that they do a really good job of providing a lot of information and resources and different professional development opportunities for their members. I've also been a member of ACPA, and I think that something that they did well was creating a personable, collaborative atmosphere. I just felt like the membership in that association were able to easily connect with each other and kind of brainstorm and utilize each other as a support network. And then something that I've seen from a PCA, which is for programming specifically, and I haven't been an official member of them, but I got a lot of their communications. And something interesting that they did over the last couple of years are these regular pivot webinars. And so each week they brought in a vendor or a partner or an industry professional that they've worked with, and had these discussions every week, broadcasted live to anyone who was interested in attending. And those have been really engaging discussions that gave you some insights, that gave you a lot of different ideas of how to approach the work, also connected you to other speakers or program vendors, but they also gave you tips on how to pivot and adjust to the changing times that we're in. And so I was very involved in a lot of their offerings, even though I wasn't an official member. And if I had the institutional funds to be a member of multiple organizations, I probably would have joined them because of their openness and their in sharing information and resources and providing those opportunities to connect and network.
Oh, amazing. Thank you very much, Evan, for sharing that, dropping so many truth bombs and diamonds on us. Is there any final words or thoughts that you have for anybody that might be listening? Any shout outs to anyone who's kind of inspired you along the way?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I would say, as far as just general advice, like I said, a lot of people in higher education and student affairs are in it because of the impact that they can make on students. And sometimes when you're working at an institution, you can kind of get bogged down in the daily minutia tasks or the politics that are going on campus, and it can kind of drag you down. But it's important to stay focused on the overall goal, your why you're in it. And that is the impact that you're making on students, and find those little wins and those moments that make it clear and where you can see the impact that you're making. And so I think that has helped me professionally. Something that's also helped me professionally is having wonderful mentors and support people in my life. I know that my graduate program director at Penn State, Dave Guthrie, who is retired now, but when I was initially working on getting that free master's degree going, it wasn't going as planned for the initial application process, but he worked with me personally to ensure that I had a spot in the program and really cared about my entire cohort personally on an individual level. And we knew that he supported us not only in our academics, but in our lives. And I think that that's another thing that my current supervisor, Alicia Kalka, she's the assistant vice president of enrollment and student life now. But she really provides me the autonomy and the space to try things out, to learn things, to figure things out on my own and grow as an individual and a professional, and trust me to do my work, but is always there as a support person. And I can always trust that if I do need any additional help, any advice or any assistance, she's always there. She's got my back. She's a fierce advocate for what I do, and again, cares about my personal growth and my professional growth. And so really cares about me more than just as an employee doing the job, but cares about me individually. And I think that extra level of care and concern has been really impactful and critical to our relationship and my growth as not only a professional, but just personally as well.
Evan, thank you so much. And you mentioned that autonomy piece, which is, man, I know I said that was the last question, but how important has that been? I think it's really cool that, someone just kind of lets you, hey, go, figure it out. And if you can't, come on back. How much does that help you grow in the field, having someone willing to trust?
Yeah, I think that has been tremendous. Like I said, she trusts me to do my job. She knows that I have expertise and background, and that I look into what other schools are doing for best practice. But yeah, that has been definitely critical. It makes my job a little bit, I don't want to say easier, because it can still be difficult at times, but it makes it feel like I don't have someone micromanaging or a lot of pressure to live up to someone else's expectations. I can go out and try things. I can discover what works best. Like I said, I can look into what other people are doing. And that really empowers me to try to figure out what will work best and try to constantly look for, other resources and feedback from the students directly or from other institutions to figure out what works best. And having the freedom to be able to go out and do that, I think makes me more excited to come in and do my work and do my job, instead of just always having to kind of follow a checklist of what someone else is doing. It makes me more excited to kind of explore and learn what works best on my own.
That's amazing. Again, thank you very much, Evan, for being here on the NAMCA podcast. Hopefully we continue to hang out and stay connected as well. And
I think you cut out, Stan, but yes, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay, that was tremendous. Yeah, my entire screen went blank and then came back.
It wouldn't be a virtual interview or meeting without some technical difficulties, right?
I know, right? Thank you very much for your grace on that. Live television, folks. You're seeing it live. Thank you. I don't even know how long I was gone. Thank you very much for everyone who tuned in or going to tune in to this NAMCA podcast. If you ever wanting to be more familiar with NAMCA, it's the National Association of Masterminds in Co-Curricular Advancement, where we look to connect professionals with those who need them to help build us from the inside out to create a better atmosphere for higher ed and work with them. Again, Evan, thank you very much for being here. Look forward to staying connected with you. And for those of y'all listening, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and share this with someone that you know it could help, because I'm sure this episode helped specifically. Have a good one, y'all.
Peace. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.